So right before Endgame, I went through and discussed every Marvel Cinematic Universe film from Iron Man to Ant-Man and the Wasp at the time, and then did a review of Endgame when it came out. And I don't think I've discussed a single MCU property since, even though, as usual, I've watched every single one of them the second they've dropped, a lot of the times at midnight. If it's Disney Plus series or, 7 p.m. showings for all of these midnight releases, as I still refer to them as, even though they're 7 o'clock showings. But now they have them as early as 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
But I'm not off work.
No.
So I can't go to the 3 o'clock.
7 o'clock it is.
7 o'clock. We did go to the 6:30 tonight,
yes.
though. But anyway, really, this video isn't so much a review, because I know a lot of people on my channel don't really give a shit what I think about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, even though you should, because my opinion is golden.
It's
the gold standard, actually. Right? Yeah. 100%. But we're really here to discuss more of how horror is Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. When this was announced, back when Scott Derrickson was still directing it, the director of the first one, he also directed Hellraiser Inferno.
Ooh.
So when I saw that he was on to direct, and that because he's done a few horror movies, and that they were going to make this the first horror-themed Marvel Cinematic Universe film, I was like, well, how horror will they go? And then he left the project for whatever reason, and Sam Raimi was brought on, and of course, anyone in the horror community knows his pedigree. Then you're like, oh wow, they really are going all out on this horror idea, probably. But I was still like, it's Marvel,
right?
And it's Disney.
So
how horror would it be? So, Kaylee, how horror is Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness to you?
This much? Oh, well, like this much? I mean, we watch a lot of horror movies, and it's not like strictly horror, obviously. No. But it had a lot for what I was expecting. I don't know. I guess I didn't really know what to expect, and what we got, I was very happy with.
We're not going to be talking spoilers at all
no
for
spoilers.
Anybody who wants us to talk about them or not talk about them. You don't have to worry about that.
But there's some pretty scary scenes, especially for younger audiences.
Yes.
This is a really dark movie.
Yes.
There's a lot of creepy visuals that I was very happy to see. And it's trippy and psychedelic because it's Doctor Strange, and so that blends really well with this surreal horror that they're going for. And I was in love with the movie. What do you think? How horror?
Very mystical.
Yes.
As these Doctor Strange films should be. There's one death in particular.
Oh my god.
That happens in the film that genuinely surprised me for how brutal I thought it was. So I would say, I would say most of the film plays out like you would expect a Marvel film to, or a Doctor Strange sequel to play out in a superhero subgenre. And I wasn't feeling, because there was a lot of people when I would watch discussions, reviews, whatever, about this film, they were talking about how Sam Raimi this movie was. And until that third act, I wasn't really feeling that. I was just kind of like, well, I can feel touches, a cameo or something where you're like, okay, this is Raimi. But I wasn't feeling that super Raimi stamp. But then in the third act, it goes full Raimi. And I'm like, oh, okay. Here's what they're talking about. And I feel like this is a film where it excels in its climax. There is, I feel like the majority of the third act is horror.
I agree.
And some really dark, trippy, weird shit that is going to scare people. I mean, we had people in our audience who were actually frightened.
Yeah.
And were gasping, and I could tell it was pushing them to their threshold or maybe even beyond it. Now, these people aren't us, right? They're not fucking horror fanatics who live this shit. So, you know, it's not gonna phase any like hardcore horror fan where they're like, oh my God, I'm scared or something. It's not gonna be that. But for the film that it is, catering to the audience in which it's catering to, this is darker than I would have expected it to go, but a welcomed surprise in that way. Because, yeah, I mean, the film, I'm an MCU, like, fanboy. So I do have those, you know, those tinted glasses on, so to speak. And with just getting done with Moon Knight yesterday, which I was really into, and then having this come out the next day, how spoiled have we become? Our little friend is back, the little spider, and Bean's trying to... Bean, leave him alone. We've had to catch this spider like 15 times.
It's the same one.
I don't think Bean's going to let this spider live. Shouldn't have came back.
Shouldn't have come back in here, guy.
Yeah, this is a real horror movie right here. But yeah, I mean, as I said, we're not really here to discuss the film. We're really into it. And if you're already going to see it. If you're into this stuff, you're going to it. Yeah. So you don't need our recommendation. I'm just really, as a horror channel, wanting to discuss the level of horror within the film. And I would say it's pretty high.
Yes.
For what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. For what it is, I think it's very high.
It's and I agree, fucking way... Hold on 1 second. Sorry. I don't mean to interrupt you. I know I get shit in the comments all the time. Let her talk. No, don't talk. This is going to be our fucking thumbnails from now on. It's going to be like me pointing to my mouth and covering her mouth. You're not allowed to speak. I walk all over her. I trample her words because I am man and she is beneath me as a woman. This is what people seem to think. No, you can talk all you want. Just one more thing is that this is 100 times more horror than a good amount of the horror movies that we've watched lately.
For sure. I loved it. I was so into like the emotional stuff and the link that had with like the horror elements, and I don't know, it was just WandaVision was very like at the beginning of WandaVision and really throughout it.
This is a sequel to WandaVision,
and this
big time.
Follows in line with that, but kind of amps it up quite a bit, and it was so good. This is what I want most horror movies to be like, with the climax, you know, being so dark and emotional, yeah. So it was fantastic, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a good film for parents too, as far as like the emotional engagement that you're gonna get it.
Yeah.
Right? Unless you don't like your kids, you know,
and
then you're a piece of shit. You shouldn't have
you're
them.
An asshole.
But no, I was gonna say something else, and then I just totally spaced on.
You were saying that this is like more horror than.
Oh yeah, this is much more horror than we're all going to the World's Fair. The Noomi Rapace film that we just watched, the witch one. Mm-hmm. Which one?
Which one?
Which one? The witch one.
The witch one.
The witch one. What was that called? You're Not Alone. Something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, You're Not Alone?
Yeah.
Way more. But to
be fair, those are totally different films.
Totally different films.
They're definitely more art house, but this...
Point being is that on IMDb, when it says drama horror, when it says this horror, this and this earns its horror stamp.
Yes.
Way more.
Yeah.
Way more. That should be like glowing compared to the other ones.
Yeah.
Because the other ones, it's like... Drama horror. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is like superhero horror, right? Mm-hmm. It's like it's a quieter horror, but it's not a whisper
No.
Like a lot of the fucking horror movies we've been watching. So, that's it.
That's it.
That's really the video. I think that there's a lot of really great elements with the monsters and like what it's hard. Yeah, you don't.
It's hard to not give away spoilers, but I really love the sound design as well. That also added, kind of went along with the horror because that's, I think, something that can be really underused with horror movies, and I feel like this movie did a very good job of not only like the superhero like soundtrack, but also when things get really freaky, the music reflects that. So I loved that, but there's so much that was just it was so great.
I mean, a film like this further illustrates how badly we need like some big budgeted, like superhero-esque, full hard R rated horror film.
Well, that was the other thing I was thinking too, is that this kind of felt like one of the more graphic, like I was trying to think of other MCU like movies and shows that were as, like, it's not gory per se, but it was more violent than I feel like, and that's weird to say because, there's tons of battles in superhero movies, especially in the MCU, but this one, it just felt like it was a little bit more visceral than what we've seen in the past. I could be wrong on that. I could be like totally misremembering.
No, because there's a lot of consequences to the action. There's a lot of pretty like hard-hitting deaths.
Yeah.
And I'm not even speaking emotionally. I'm talking about like physically, realistically, like people are being fucking murdered. And it's like, wow, there's a lot of deaths.
Yes, there is.
Like a lot of deaths.
There is.
In this film. And they're, some of them are up close and personal, right? And surprising. So that's really where the horror comes from. We've gotten horror superhero movies before, whether it's Brightburn or the New Mutants or even like Chronicle or something. But I would love to see like Brightburn's, I guess, the closest thing we have currently to like a hard R rated superhero horror film. But I want to see like a legit just Homelander.
I was literally just thinking, I was like The Boys, but like hard horror.
Just give me a spin-off movie with Homelander.
Oh my god.
Going completely fucking nuts. Becoming like invincible, for anyone who's watched Invincible on Amazon Prime. Just pure mayhem, insanity, just ripping bodies apart. It'd be so fucking rad. We need that film. Anyways, so let us know if you watch it, and if you're going to see it anytime soon. I don't know. You should have already went and saw it if you're like a hardcore fan, but some people don't have the time.
That's true.
I get it. Like, I have people who are like, I watch you while I'm at work all night. I never get a fucking free moment.
So see it when you can, then.
Yeah,
as soon as you can.
I get it. So let us know.
Bye.